we want to thank the Motorcycle Mechanics Institute for sponsoring this video. MMI is a school for motorcycle enthusiasts who want to train for a career in the industry. Click the link above for more information.
Hey guys, Ryan with Motorcycle.com here in Portugal to check out the 2024 Suzuki, wait for it, GSX-S1000GX Plus. We've got another pretty cool model from Suzuki. They kind of been knocking it out of the park, and it's all based around a nearly 20-year-old engine. The thing about this nearly 20-year-old engine is that it's pretty stellar. It's been now thrown into naked bikes, sport touring bikes, in addition to the 2005 GSX-R that it came out of. But the thing about this engine is it's just super torquey, low down. You can lug it below 2,000 RPM, and especially with this model and this throttle response that this is specific to this machine, it's so smooth. And at the same time, you can rev it out to almost like 12,000 RPM. So what we have here is basically Suzuki's most technologically advanced motorcycle to date. And what really does that, kind of stepping away from the GT that this is kind of based on, is going to be the IMU and electronic suspension at both ends. So if we're kind of, again, moving into the engine, we've got a 999cc inline-4, and again, torque is the thing with this engine. It's so nice to roll around through town. You've got really smooth, low throttle response. We're told that this is the exact same tune that is in the GT model, which put out on the dyno at the rear wheel 124 horsepower and 67 pound-feet of torque. This model specifically has its own throttle tune, but as far as engine mapping, it's the same. And then kind of moving, obviously, this is kind of a tall sport touring bike, so moving up, we've got the suspension that you get more travel than the GT, and again, this is Showa's electronic suspension system. You have a stroke sensor in the fork, and the suspension is basically always monitoring the damping, so it's kind of a semi-active feature. You also have preload that you can set at auto, where it sets the bike where Suzuki feels is the right setting for that. You also have the option of rider with luggage, and 2-up. So that's going to put a little more preload in the back. Today I kind of found that putting the preload setting at 2-up kind of picked up the back end and made me feel a little bit more confident with the front wheel. That said, within each of the 3 ride modes, the damping characteristic sets to hard for A, which is active, which brings down traction control, gives you a sharper throttle response. And then you've got B, which is basic. That brings up the traction control a little bit, softens the suspension to the medium damping setting. And then you've got C, which is comfort. Obviously, more traction control, softer throttle response, and a little bit more of a open damping. So what was nice about that, it's really easy to change it with this little toggle here, and I really like the setup of the controls. Everything's really ergonomic and kind of right where you want it to be. But when we're rolling through town on some bumpier roads, some cobblestone, kind of like this, I just banged it down into comfort, and it kind of took the harsh edges out of, small hits around potholes, things like this. But for most of today, we had a decent amount of wet, mossy corners in the morning, so keeping it in B setting with the throttle not super sharp, and then bringing the damping, a little tighter, really kind of did a good job at keeping things pretty stable, comfortable, and, there's that little safety net with the throttle response being a little softer. In the afternoon, sun dried up the roads. We were able to get some space between traffic, and A was the mode if you're going out and looking to rip. But I will say A is definitely a sharper throttle response, so you might not want that all the time. You might want to reserve that for when you're going out in canyon roads and whatnot. So all of the IMU-based features on this are going to be the suspension uses it, the drag torque control uses it, which I'll get into in a minute, the ABS uses it, and basically the traction control uses it in a way. So talking about the drag torque control, which Suzuki has got an obscene amount of acronyms for this motorcycle, and there's 15 for the suspension alone. But what we have is basically a system that the drag torque control uses the IMU to base off of your lean, speed, what the suspension is doing, and that reduces the power input from the throttle. So basically it's a preventative traction control system. Then you have the actual traction control system that works when the wheel does slip. So you kind of got two systems working to make sure that you're stable, whether you're leaned over or just giving it too much throttle, or it's going to cut when you're leaned over and it's like, nah, you probably shouldn't give it that much gas because like I said, this engine's pretty torquey. So what you see here is the Plus model, which Plus for the rest of the world gets you bags and a center stand. For the US, we're only getting the Plus model, and it's only going to be in this matte green color, and it's going to retail for $18,500. So it's a little bit expensive. It's $4,300 more than the GT. Obviously, you get the upright riding position, kind of different setup, which having a motorcycle that's this upright that still has a sporting characteristic and this motor, it's really great. You know, not being super leaned over. You can see around a bit better. It's more of an all-day comfort kind of thing. If you're just looking for a sporting experience, you don't care about electronic suspension, the GT is still a great motorcycle, but this kind of brings it into what Suzuki's calling a crossover. It's a tall sport touring bike. We've seen these before. We have the Versas, the Tracer, you know, and thinking about those two models, definitely going to be big competitors. And at the price point, it undercuts the Kawasaki a little bit by like $400. So the Kawasaki is $18,900. The Tracer is down around 16 something, 16 and change. And that's going to be a hard package to beat. This definitely plays off the styling with the front fairing and everything of the motorcycles we've seen coming through with the GT, the GSX-8S, and all of that family. I'm a huge fan of it, obviously. It's up to you. You like it or you don't like it. The TFT display is really easy to use with the controls as well, and it's really easy to see everything. Easy to get through the menus, no problems there. And like we've seen on other models using this engine and the quick shifter is top notch. One of the best in the industry by far. It's great at low RPM. It's great if you're revving the bike out. Just a stellar quick shifter. Kind of the touring accoutrement you come to expect. We've got cruise control here. It's smart cruise control, which allows you to use the quick shifter up and down while the function is enabled. It is not radar based. There's no radars on this bike. Suzuki says this bike is 511 pounds without the bags. We weighed the GT in with bags and a full fuel tank at 524, so I'm guessing this is going to be somewhere around there. In terms of riding position versus the GT, these handlebars are going to be back about 2 inches wider, and up almost 2 inches, about an inch and a half. The foot pegs are about 0.6 inches lower also. You know, you get the more upright riding position. Seats are a bit thicker, although I will say the seat at the front here is a bit narrow and kind of can create a hot spot if you don't make sure you're scooted back on this. But I would say one of the things that I wasn't super excited about, again, and it was a little bit of a problem with the GT also, is going to be the front brake. It's just doesn't have a lot of initial bite, and it really just feels a little soft even when you're getting into it. It gets the bike slowed down just fine, you know, and you can manage it, but it's not as up to snuff with a lot of stuff that's out there these days. By the time you read the article, hopefully, we will have had a full other day of really just testing on this bike. So please, you know, check out the article at Motorcycle.com for all the details about the bike, spec sheet, some more digested information, and some more time that I've had on the bike when I'm able to get that out. That's it for now, guys. So far, the suspension is working pretty good. It's comfortable in town when you bump it down into comfort mode. Again, it was good in kind of the intermediate setting for our roads today, and then we got a little bit of a chance to get into some spicier stuff that I hope we will get more of tomorrow. But I think for now, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe. Head on over to Motorcycle.com for the full article.
We want to thank the Motorcycle Mechanics Institute for sponsoring this video. MMI is a school for motorcycle enthusiasts who want to train for a career in the industry. Click the link above for more information.